I'm Brian Johnson, and this is Better Cocktails at Home. Today we're going to be talking about planning out a home bar. This is something that I've been doing a few times now. So this is actually our brand new home bar. We bought a new house not too long ago. So this will be sort of like our third kind of home bar. So if you watch our really old videos on Better Cocktails at Home, we actually built this set in our old house. And then we didn't really use it as a home bar. It was almost purely a set for doing the show on YouTube. The second bar, one we built not too long ago, is called the Skeleton Key. Now that bar was amazing. We loved it. We didn't really film that much there just because life had gotten in the way and everything else. But that bar is one we built literally from beginning to end. And then we just moved into this one. So as you can see, we're under construction right now. We are working on some things. And so I want to talk to you about planning out a home bar, right? So one of the most important things when you're talking about home bars is looking at your space, right? So we have a large space for this one. Some people have no space. So maybe you just have a cupboard in your kitchen. And so there's that whole range between having a ton of like a big dedicated space to having almost no space, right? So how do you kind of deal with that? So the first thing is look at your space, figure out what can you do well, right? So if you've got a tiny space, maybe you can't, stock everything. You can't have 4 different kinds of rye whiskey for your thing. You can't have 5 different gins. You got to really be okay. Well, I've got this space to work with, so I got to kind of be selective in what I'm going to stock and what kind of tools I'm going to have, right? To the other end of, I've got a huge space, and maybe it's not so much how you're going to stock it, but how do you decorate it? How do you make it feel like a home bar? So looking at that, once you've got your space laid out, or at least you're understanding what space you're going to be using, I highly recommend actually using software to mock it up. So one that I've used is called SketchUp, and it's really nice for drawing a layout of your room. And you can do it all in 3D. You can model everything. So it's a bit of a learning curve to it, but there's a lot of YouTube tutorials, and SketchUp has a lot of things, but they have a free web version of it. I highly recommend it. And I actually built this whole room out into a SketchUp model where I can play with things, I can move things around, I can change things up. So that's kind of the next piece of planning your space. The next thing after that is kind of thinking about whenever you go to like an actual commercial bar, you have a lot of options out there, right? There's tiki bars, there's classic bars, there's, everything. There's all kinds of different concepts, if you will. But I think having that sort of same mentality when planning your home bar is really what takes it to the next level, right? So if you kind of have, look at your space that you have, right? So if you kind of already have a really sort of industrial apartment maybe, or it's got some exposed concrete walls, like, okay, well, how can you play off of that into what you want to do for a concept of home bar? Even if it's just a bar cart, right? That you've got up against it. How can you kind of make this a cool space that you want to be in, you want to mix drinks at, and have it really fun for your friends and yourself? So kind of looking at what you currently have is a big one. And then also, kind of taking that and then working with a concept, right? So, okay, so you've got something sort of industrial. You're going to do something where, it's very selective, or maybe you want to do like a very specific kind of style of bar, right? So you're like, I want to focus on Amaro. So you have a bar cart with, 3 different Amaros. You've got your club soda, you've got a gin, and you've got a rye. It's really like small and focused, but you can do a lot with it. So figuring out that concept is kind of the next step. This is before we're doing any kind of we're doing any construction, this is all little stuff you can be doing on paper, on your computer. It's planning stuff out, kind of what you like, thinking about what you want to have. And then finally, kind of after you get to that, you've sort of done the planning. Then it's kind of looking at your space, looking at your budget, saying, what can I do? How do I make this fit with where I want to go? Do I have to change up, right? So like, for instance, I was playing with location of this bar. I actually ended up leaving it where it was because it would cost way too much money to move it. So it's just things like that kind of take that step from look at your space, see what you have, kind of mock up your space somewhere so you can manipulate it and do things with it, even if it's pen and paper, whether it's like that SketchUp program I've used. Think about what kind of concept you want sort of in your bar, and then from there look at your budget and your kind of timeline and what you want to do, right? It could be really small and you could do it in a day. It could be really much longer and it takes a year. So it all just depends, but those are kind of the major steps of kind of building out a home bar. So we're gonna have a lot more episodes talking about home bars, construction, layout, and everything else. And thank you so much for watching Better Cocktails at Home.